Committee on Finance and Taxation, General Government Operations, and Youth Development now convenes this hearing. In accordance with the Open Government Law, public notices for today's proceedings were sent to the media on Thursday, April 16th, 2015, and again on Tuesday, April 21st, 2015. For the record, today is Thursday, April 23rd, 2015, and the time is now 6:04 in the evening. The committee will hear and accept testimony, both oral and written, on the following items. Bill number 60-33, COR, introduced by myself and co-sponsored by Vice Speaker B.J. Cruz, Senator Tom Atta, Senator Marissa Underwood, Ph.D., Senator Mary Torres, and Senator Jim Espaldon. An act to repeal and reenact Chapter 11, Title 2, Guam Code, annotated relative to establishing the Guam Tax Commission. We'll also be hearing Bill number 58-33 LS, introduced by our Speaker Judy Wampat and co-sponsored by Senator Tommy Morrison and our Legislative Secretary Tina Rose Munia Barnes. An act to amend subsection 2311B and 2311E3 of Chapter 23, Division 2, Title 5, Guam Code, annotated relative to the use of government travel mileage benefits for off-island student travel involving academic, sports, and cultural activities. We'll also be hearing Bill number 76-33, introduced by Senator Dennis Rodriguez Jr., an act to amend subsection 32101 of Chapter 3, Division 1, Title 10, Guam Code, annotated, to provide for the qualifications of the territorial epidemiologist of the Department of Public Health and Social Services. And lastly on the agenda, we have Bill number 64-33, introduced by Senator Morrison, co-sponsored by Senator Tony Atta and our Legislative Secretary Tina Rose Munia Barnes, an act to add a new Article 3 to Chapter 4 of 5GCA relative to providing public broadband internet services in village community centers. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the senators who have joined me this evening. To my immediate right is the Vice Chair of the Committee, Senator Mary Torres. To her immediate right is our Vice Speaker, B.J. Cruz. And to his immediate right is our Speaker, Judy Wampat. To my immediate left is Senator Tom Atta. And to his immediate left is Senator Tommy Morrison. Thank you very much, Senators, for joining the committee this evening for this public hearing. We'll go ahead and begin public testimony on Bill 60-33. I'll go ahead and offer an opening statement on the bill, and we'll be going calling up individuals who've signed up to testify with respect to Bill 60-33. Thank you, Tom. Just for the benefit of the committee members as well as the listening audience and the community present here today, we have received written testimony from Mr. Bobby Shringi. We have received written testimony from Mr. Albert Perez and written testimony from Jose Calvo, as well as John Camacho. Mr. Camacho is the Director of Revenue Tax. Mr. Calvo is the Director of BBMR. Mr. Perez is the Chief Economist of the Bureau of Statistics and Plans, and Mr. Shringi is writing in his individual capacity as a citizen. And signed up to testify, we have Ms. Jackie Marati from the Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce. Ms. Marati, please join us. Thank you. Before I recognize you for your testimony, I'll just go ahead and give a brief overview of why we're introducing Bill 60-33. The original legislation that's on the books right now is Chapter 11, the Legislative Tax Review Commission. And there's two things that jumped out at us when we were reviewing this original piece of legislation, or this original public law. And that is that on page 3, the duties of the commission was kind of vague, and it didn't explicitly spell out what the commission is seeking to accomplish. That is the predominant change that we're proposing here in this bill on page 7 all the way into page 8. We spell out the duties in Bill 60 of the Tax Commission, and those duties include first, to compile all the records and all the work products of all the previous commissions. We have executive orders from 1986, or 1987, and 2003 that had so much work done by these previous commissions, but when it comes time to actually be able to review where we've been and where we've gone with respect to the work of these commissions, it's very difficult to actually get that information. So the first order of business is to be able to compile all the records and work products of those previous commissions. The next objective will be to review Guam's tax structure and tax policies, including tax exemptions and credits, which may include a comparative analysis of those policies in relation to other jurisdictions within the United States. We'll also seek to review the procedure and policy options available to the government of Guam with regard to delinking from the U.S. Internal Revenue Code under subsection 1271 of Public Law 99-514. This is actually the crux of why these commissions have been formed over all these years in the past, was to explore the delinking option. But the actual procedure for us to explore that was actually not enumerated in the law. We'll also review estimates of the fiscal impact of any potential changes to the tax structure, and will develop informational reports or recommendations regarding Guam's tax structure and tax policies, procedures, and policy options available to the government with regard to delinking from the Internal Revenue Code as deemed appropriate by the Commission. The Commission will also work then to develop a uniform tax code for Guam and transmit a copy of all these reports and all of this work and recommendations as adopted by the Commission regarding tax policy to the Governor and the Speaker of the Legislature for actual consideration by the elected leaders of the island. So these duties and responsibilities were not spelled out in the existing law, but by spelling it out, it kind of gives us a clear sense of direction of what we want the Tax Commission to accomplish. And the second, and I would say perhaps one of the biggest changes that we're making, and most important, is we're adding a section here in the membership for the Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce. And the Guam Women's Chamber was not formed at the time that the original law was enacted, but they are formed now, and they're very active in our community, and they provide a woman's leadership perspective to the conversation that I think is going to be incredibly valuable to the work of the Commission. So those are the two major changes here in the bill, the enumeration of the duties and the inclusion of a woman representative from the Women's Chamber as part of the membership of the Commission. And just for the benefit of the listening audience, the membership is going to make up senators, of course, in the legislature, to include the minority leaders, so we have representation from both parties. It will include an economist. It will include a certified public accountant, a banking professional, a business owner selected from the Chamber of Commerce, a business owner selected from the Women's Chamber of Commerce, and an attorney specializing in tax law, and an individual designated by the Governor of Guam. So we cover all the bases. We try to get as many perspectives as possible. And the work is going to be basically to look at our tax code and to see, is there a way for us to delink from the federal tax code and adopt a tax code on Guam that's going to be advantageous to the circumstances and conditions that we have here on the island that are unique as compared to the overall United States. Right now in our current tax code, we mirror the U.S. tax code. And so anytime the United States makes any changes to their tax code, it automatically changes our tax policy here. And we all know that when the Congress is considering changes to their tax code, they're considering it in the greater interest of the country without any real consideration of the impact to our territory out here in the Pacific. So the Tax Commission needs to do the work of trying to figure out exactly what kind of tax policy will be advantageous for us here and lead us down that path. And so that's the intent of Bill 60-33, is to update existing law so that we can kickstart that process and create a historical background of where we've been and where we want to go and get the work going on a regular basis. So with that, I invite the public to read the written testimonies that were submitted, because there are some suggestions that were incorporated there. And I would like to now turn it over to Ms. Jackie Marathi, who does have some testimony that she would like to provide this evening. Thank you for joining us.
Buenas and Hafa-day. Hafa-day, Honorable Chairman and Senators of the 33rd Guam Legislature. I am Jackie Ariola Marathi, Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce Board Member and Chair of the GWCC Legislative and Public Relations Committee. I am happy to appear before you today to submit testimony favoring Bill 60-33, a bill relative to establishing the Guam Tax Commission. The Guam Women's Chamber is especially pleased to be included in the formation of the Tax Commission as proposed in the bill. The Guam Women's Chamber considers research and delinking consideration for the Guam Tax Code to be an essential process in the development of Guam's economy. It is time to recognize the unique needs of Guam's businesses and taxpayers and to formulate a responsible tax code which reflects the distinctiveness of our island's economic structure and its changing needs. In particular, growing numbers of women entrepreneurs and businesses and the distinct needs of women in the workforce should be represented at every point of the discussion. The Guam Women's Chamber stands ready to provide support and assistance as requested in the formulation of the Tax Commission, in addition to engaging in discussion important to the establishment and ongoing development. Thank you, Tunsitus Maasi.
Thank you, Ms. Murati. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for the individual at the panel? Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
And just to close, this bill number 60-33 is introduced by a bipartisan coalition of senators, and I'm excited that we may be able to get additional support from my other colleagues. But I would like to recognize the co-sponsors as Vice Speaker B.J. Cruz, Senator Tom Atta, Senator Narissa Underwood, Senator Mary Torres, and Senator Jim Espaldon all have signed on to the introduction of bill number 60-33. And if there are no other individuals who are interested in testifying with respect to the bill, we'll go ahead and conclude the hearing on bill number 60-33. Thank you very much. We are now on the next agenda item, bill number 58-33. I'll go ahead and yield to the author of the legislation, Speaker Wampat, for her opening statement. Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I authored Public Law 32-19 that authorized the use of mileage earned through Government of Guam credit card purchases of airline tickets to support student travel involving academic, sports, and cultural activities. The intent of the law is to help provide students the means to participate in various academic, sports, and cultural activities off-island, which will contribute to strengthening their academic, physical, and social development. I introduced the bill that was co-sponsored by 58, rather, that was co-sponsored with Senator Morrison and Senator Barnes at the request of the Department of Education to expand the program to include all purchases, all rather than just for travel, with Government of Guam credit cards. Also, the bill would allow the superintendent to appoint a committee to oversee the program and clarify that this program is only for GDOE students. The law originally had stated that it was the superintendent, and as you know, he's a superintendent for about close to 32,000 students, and it would be burdensome, of course, for him to make that, decision. So we want him then to select a committee to help him in that process. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just for the record, we do have written testimony submitted by the Superintendent, John Fernandez, as well as written testimony. Oh, no, that's all the written testimony for this particular bill. We do have Associate Superintendent Mr. Malay, who signed up as well to provide testimony on behalf of the Department of Education. Please join us, sir. You may start at any time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good senators of the 33rd Guam Legislature. My name is Rob Malay. I'm a Deputy Superintendent with the Guam Department of Education. I'd like to start by saying thank you to both Speaker Wampat and Senator Morrison for having your staff come over and meet with us to discuss some of the hurdles and the obstacles with the implementation of this program. And I won't read Superintendent Fernandez's written testimony verbatim for you, but we are in full support of any opportunity that does actually enhance the learning process here on island through academic, sports, and cultural travel that really do provide opportunities for our students that they might be unable to attain here and open their eyes to a greater world out there. We did actually recommend that the provision in the law expand to all credit card purchases and not just credit card purchases for travel, as it's very difficult, as we were trying to implement, to be able to distinguish what mileage was earned through travel purchases, because your mileage statements don't disaggregate that information. They don't give you a statement that says you earned 1,000 miles for grocery purchases, 1,000 miles for travel purchases. It's not done that way. So when we sat down with the staffs of the two senators, we were able to work through that, and we're recommending that an amendment be made that would include travel mileage that is earned through all credit card purchases to benefit students. This program will go a long way. Our students do the fundraising to have these opportunities, whether it be a sports team, whether it be a close-up, whether it be mock trial, whatever the case might be. Simon Sanchez High School just placed 5th in the National Pro Start competition for the culinary arts. We've got our ROTC program that's competing in the Golden Bear competition this weekend, and they've done very well and been very successful in those national competitions. So we want to be able to afford these opportunities for our students, and being able to access travel mileage to offset cost will go a long ways in providing those opportunities for our students. So we do support the amendments. We did make recommendation there for consideration. I want to thank you all for the efforts in working with our public school students and providing them these awesome opportunities.
Thank you, Superintendent Malay. Did anyone have any questions for this individual? Sure. Senator Adam.
Well, I guess it's really just a general question. We've got, I'm a little disappointed that we don't have the airlines here to provide testimony to inform us as to whether they would be willing to go through the administrative processing of sorting out, travel mileage to go to a certain account and everything else stays wherever. I recall, maybe a decade ago, the mileage program for medical referrals and whatnot. But I don't know that it ever got implemented, because the airlines have always basically said, they don't want to hassle with that. And so I'm just disappointed that the airlines is not here to say whether they'll participate in this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ada. Anybody else have any statements or questions? Sure, Senator Torres.
Mr. Malay, in looking at the bill, on line 7, the words, the use of government of Guam was struck from the description of credit cards that are used for purchases. In the department, are purchases sometimes made with personal credit cards and then reimbursed by the department, to your knowledge?
Well, I think the intent of this bill is not just for the Department of Education, it's for all government of Guam agencies, particularly the Department of Administration, which does make purchases with credit cards. They have a credit card for their department. We don't have a Department of Education credit card. There are travelers who will secure accommodations with their personal credit card and receive their per diem, but they don't necessarily get charged on their credit card when they receive their per diem, and they are able to offset it. And there might be an occasional that does. You'll see in Superintendent Fernandez's testimony, in his written testimony, the recommendation that he has with regard to some of the language that was presented in the amendments, and just a recommendation for consideration to include all purchases, not specifically travel. Quite frankly, you could have an agency who makes all of their other purchases and uses those miles to afford the travel without having to purchase travel through a credit card or other means. So the recommendation that we put forth was all purchases with credit cards, not just purchases for travel.
But my question is specific to the credit card that is used and the miles that are accrued on the credit card. My question is specifically in your department. I don't expect that you're going to speak on behalf of other agencies, but just within Department of Education, is it a more than or is it a usual practice that travelers or authorized employees will use their personal credit cards and then seek reimbursement? Are you aware of that type of practice?
Not for purchase of airline tickets. No, that's not done through the department. They don't use their personal credit cards. That goes through our business office, and it goes through fair competition with getting price quotations and determining which one meets or has the best criteria in order for the traveler to attend.
True.
So we don't pay with credit card for airline tickets. However, that said, in order to reserve a hotel room, people do need to put a credit card up front to hold that room. Otherwise, they'll get there and won't have an accommodation. So that's the common practice.
Okay, that answers my question, because then the whole management of the surrender of miles and that sort of thing becomes a different type of administrative effort, and that's why I asked if it's on occasion an occurrence. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Torres. Any other colleagues have any questions for Mr. Malay? Thank you, Mr. Malay. Speaker, on Bill 58, did you want the committee to work with your office to try and have this reported out for our session next week, or did you want to try and inquire with maybe the airlines or
No, we'll work with your office, and then we'll make that determination.
Okay.
Because I do know that when this was first introduced, there was the risk of actually losing United to participate in using the mileage for both the medical or for the students, and that's why the changes were made. It wasn't during your time, but that was the reason for this. They do not want to. What it is that they allowed and they put on their website that if you want to contribute your miles, you can go there, and the Judah Foundation is listed as one of those sites to make the contribution. But they were almost like threatening that if we stop making it a requirement for all of the government of Guam employees to put their mileage, give it to the government and put their mileage into the Judah Foundation, because we were not requiring this of the competitor, which was Delta Airlines, and so therefore there's no requirement now, mandatory deposit of their mileage. So we couldn't garnish those anymore, and so we decided that it would be best then that through government credit card purchases, that would be the way to get the mileage then for our students. So, and the airlines didn't come and testify that time. It was just a personal discussion that I had with United and with Delta, but they would not come to testify.
Okay. So we'll work with you then on the outcome of the bill for the upcoming session. Did you want to make any other closing statements on the bill?
Well, it's
Sure.
Not so much on this, but if I may, I just want to say congratulations to Mr. Malay, and we're sorry we're going to lose you, but I understand you were selected as a superintendent for New Hampshire, right? So congratulations to you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So if there are no other additional testimonies or questions, we'll go ahead and conclude the hearing on Bill number 58-33. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, Bill number 76-33, introduced by Senator Dennis Rodriguez, Jr., an act to amend subsection 3201.1A of Chapter 3, Division 1, Title 10, Guam Code Annotated, to provide for the qualifications of the territorial epidemiologist of the Department of Public Health and Social Services. Senator Rodriguez is unable to join us for the hearing today, but he did provide a sponsor statement that he asked be read into the record, so I'll go ahead and do that on his behalf. He writes, "Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to provide this brief sponsor statement on Bill 76-33, an act to amend subsection 3201.1A, et al., as stated earlier. At the request of the Department of Public Health and Social Services, I introduced this measure in order to provide for the qualifications of the territorial epidemiologist. It is the intent of this legislation to clarify the qualifications for this position and make it easier for the department to recruit physicians who are a similarly qualified graduate from an American Medical Association approved medical school with an M.D. degree and certification by the American Board of Prevention Medicine, or a graduate from a recognized school of public health with a M.Ph. degree, epidemiology major, from an accredited school with a graduate degree in epidemiology or biostatistics, and 1 to 2 years of experience in the field of epidemiology to serve as a territorial epidemiologist. The requisite qualifications would still continue to ensure the health and safety of the public. I look forward to any additional testimony the public will present to strengthen this bill. Thank you for moving this forward. Sincerely, Senator Dennis G. Rodriguez, Jr. For the record, we have received written testimony from Ms. Suzanne Kaneshiro, and signed up to testify also is Ms. Kaneshiro, Dr. Kaneshiro. If you may join us, please. And feel free to begin at any time.
Good evening, Senators. First, I want to thank Senator Dennis Rodriguez for sponsoring this bill. My name is Suzanne Cisan Kaneshiro, and I'm the Chief Public Health Officer at the Department of Public Health and Social Services. I am in support of Bill 7633, which amends the qualifications of territorial epidemiologists. There is currently a disconnect between the Department of Administration's job description on what the qualifications of a territorial epidemiologist should be and Section 3201.1A of Chapter 3, Division 1, Title 10 of the Guam Code annotated. According to GCA, the Guam epidemiologist shall be a Guam licensed physician or licensed veterinarian, while DOA states, like you said, Senator, it could be a person with a M.D. degree, a DVM degree, which is a vet degree, or a holder of a master's in public health in epidemiology. The management of the Guam Cancer Registry is not the only responsibility of the territorial epidemiologist. Public Law 24-198, which the section refers to, was created to reestablish the Guam Cancer Registry under the supervision of the Guam epidemiologist. The duties of the territorial epidemiologist, as indicated in the DOA job specifications, includes but not limited to coordinating and supervising epidemiological investigations, following up laboratory reports of communicable diseases to verify disease outbreaks, conducting epidemiological studies of diseases or conditions, supervising the compilation and analysis of statistical data of communicable and other diseases, and reviewing, formulating, and reviewing policies, regulations, and laws necessary to protect the public from the spread of communicable diseases. The position of the territorial epidemiologist is a critical one in public health. The territorial epidemiologist is the one who analyzes the health reports from the community and investigates the causes and effects of diseases and injuries and determines if there is a public health concern in the general population. In the U.S., most epidemiologist positions require a minimum of a master's degree. Depending on the college-university program, graduating epidemiologist students earn a master's of public health or a master's of science. An M.D. or a Ph.D. degree is only recommended for epidemiologists involved in clinical research or holding university teaching positions. The last time the Department of Public Health had a full-time epidemiologist was in 2004. Prior to his retirement, Dr. Robert Haddock had served as territorial epidemiologist from 1972 to 2004. It has been very difficult to fill the position because of the low salary associated with the position and an MD DVM degree requirement. The salary for a territorial epidemiologist ranges from $70,873 to $88,591. This salary is adequate for someone with a master's degree. In the U.S., the median salary is $65,270. For someone who holds an MD or DVM degree, this salary is below standard. According to a recent U.S. news article, the average veterinarian salary is $96,140, and the average salary for a physician is $188,440. Besides modifying the qualifications to include an MPH degree with an emphasis in epidemiology, I would also like to recommend the inclusion of the option of a Master's of Science degree in epidemiology as an alternative in order to attract more epidemiologists to apply for the position. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Dr. Kaneshiro. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? Senator Adam? Okay.
Dr. Kaneshiro, I'm just wondering, with this requirement that the individual must be a graduate from an American Medical Association approved medical school. Given that requirement, will this then exclude, for example, your graduates from, let's say, the foreign countries, Philippines, with an M.D. degree to be able to qualify for this?
I think so.
You think so?
I think so. I think they have to been a graduate from a U.S. medical school.
From a U.S. medical school?
Yeah, with an MD.
And the reason why I ask that, because in the engineering field, they have opened it up before. The professional had to graduate from an American, from an institute in the United States. Now they've opened it up so that if you are a graduate from an institute that is recognized by some national organization, then that individual could come in and participate and take the professional engineering exam. So I'm just wondering if the way this is languaged, or do we need to be more precise so that there's no misunderstanding that if you graduated from University of the Philippines, you have an MD degree, and it is recognized by certain organizations in the United States, then that individual could come and compete for this position. But I don't know if the language here does that.
Well, I think it's restrictive as it is because it requires an MD degree.
Right.
So usually if it requires an MD degree, if you're a physician, right, it would have to be from an American medical school.
Okay. So then it does exclude
I'm assuming that's
your
the case.
MD graduates from
I'm
institutions
assuming
like
that
the
would be
University
the
of
case,
the
yeah.
Philippines.
Because it's a physician.
And do you agree with that?
I don't really think it requires an MD degree to be an epidemiologist.
Okay.
Right?
Well then.
So if
okay.
that would be,
No.
if that would be permitted, I'm open to that because we actually do need epidemiologists at public health.
Right.
It's been 11 years since we had one.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
The other part is that alternatively then, if the individual is a graduate from a recognized school of public health with an MPH degree, from an accredited school with a graduate degree, but now it says from an MPH certification from a school of public health, from a recognized school of public health, recognized by who? I don't know. Maybe I'm asking because I don't know.
I'm assuming from the American Colleges of Association.
Okay.
I'm not sure for that either.
So we probably need to be more precise in that language then, right, as to whose recognition we will accept or would be acceptable.
I'll agree with that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Addis. Speaker Wampat, I understand you had some questions also?
Yes, thank you. Was it input from public health that, MD degrees then would be required as maybe the maximum educational requirement? Because if that is the case, then in your testimony you're saying that if it's a Ph.D., that normally they would be working or involved in a clinical research institution rather than a public health institution. So I don't see the logic there, that the highest would be a medical degree, and it's kind of difficult to hire anyway because, as you indicated, the salaries are definitely very different. A Ph.D., they're in epidemiology, couldn't very well apply for this, can't qualify for this, then if they had that.
Well, I think what the law is saying right now, the person who applies for an epidemiologist has to have an MD or DVM degree.
Yes.
What we're saying is we want to amend it so that someone with a master's in public health or a master's of science in epidemiology would be able to apply for the position. So it's actually lowering the requirements for an epidemiologist.
Okay, but the amendment in the senator's bill continues to call for an MD degree.
Oh, it's an option. It's an MD or DVM degree or an MPH degree. So it could be one of the three. That's what it's an or. It's an or in the.
I saw that,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at the bill itself where it underscored what the changes are, and it says the territorial epidemiologist shall be a Guam licensed physician or a graduate from the American Medical Association approved medical school with an MD degree and certified by American Board of Prevention Medicine. So you're right. So you've got the or, but then in your testimony, though, you're still saying that there's a Ph.D. in epidemiology.
Oh, I was saying that in the States, an epidemiologist would have an MD degree or a PhD degree if, like, for example, they would be working in a college setting or for a research company. Then they would require a higher degree to work there.
So you don't think a PhD is...
I don't think we should require somebody with a PhD should be the one who applies for this position.
But you're asking for an MD.
I'm asking
no,
for...
I mean, but not you. But I mean, but the bill is asking, or is stating that an MD is
an option, one of the options. So if a person
you can't
wants
say
to...
MD or a PhD in
right.
epidemiology.
So a person who has an MD who wants to apply for the position will qualify, not just somebody with an MPH degree, for example. So it's just we're just lowering the criteria for the position, so we can attract somebody to want to fill the position.
So that's what I'm saying. That if you're lowering it from not an MD, then the next step will be a PhD. But that's not.
No,
it's
we don't
not
want that.
MD or PhD certified by.
I was just that was just an example for me.
Okay.
If you want to hire a degree like that, that would be the case for a college setting or a research clinical setting. Then you would need a higher degree. But for us, a master's in public health or a master's of science would be adequate for us.
Now, my understanding is, at least from what I've read, is that universities now who were offering degrees and PhDs or even MDs in epidemiology, that there's a shift, and that grants from Washington are no longer being pumped in for research and for epidemiologists, but rather now to go into genetics.
Okay.
And and large universities now are starting to make that shift, almost to say now that there's really no need for epidemiologists, but rather now to look at
Geneticists.
Geneticists.
That would be even more difficult to get, I think. A geneticist is even harder than an epidemiologist to get.
But that's where the focus is now, federal dollars, and that worries me. And of course, we know PIHO has indicated that throughout the region, at least, that epidemiologists are still in need in those areas.
We actually have 2 epidemiologists from PIOA, actually from the CDC. There's actually 2 on island that's doing the non-communicable disease studies. So we need one for the department.
The other would be, you've indicated here now, in what you've listed versus what's in the bill, is that where it says or, of course, a degree in epidemiology or biostatistics and 1 to 2 years of experience in the field of epidemiology.
Correct.
But in your testimony, you didn't make that.
I didn't make the distinction with the training.
You're right. Okay, so that means then that if we didn't have that language, biostatistics, and 1 to 2 years of experience, then you still would be able to go out and recruit.
Correct.
I'm thinking that you narrowing this now even to a smaller group with biostatistics, besides epidemiology in itself, biostatistics is even harder. And then again, somebody coming out straight from the university would never be able to apply for any of these jobs, even though if they have a PhD in epidemiology, if they don't have the 1 to 2 years experience.
I think that's the minimum training, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Speaker Cruz.
Thank you. I'd hate to say that I don't like using the word lowering the standards. I think it's expanding the pool, where rather than an MD or DMV, we're now also saying a master's degree. But we're not precluding a PhD. If somebody wants to amend the law to have a PhD, that would be okay, because that's just even expanding the pool even further. So we can still put a PhD in there if a PhD in epidemiology wants to come home.
Correct.
But the distinction that Senator Ed.D. was trying to make is with the MPH, it just says from a school recognized. And if memory serves me right, we have several people on island who have an MPH who it was not an American university. It was probably University of Pacific, right? I mean, Fiji. I know a couple of people that came back and worked at Public Health and Social Services with their MPH from I don't know what they call it, the university in
I think it's Fiji School of Medicine.
They came up from there. I know that they came, University of the Pacific or whatever that name of the Fiji University is. If memory serves me right also, we have doctors on island who are licensed to practice, who graduated from UP, but did their residency in the United States.
Correct.
Don't we?
I think so.
So, should we keep that restriction in this piece of legislation, or should we remove that American university and just have an MD who has done his residency in the United States that wants to do this?
I'm open to that suggestion.
No, I understand that what your concern is that public health hasn't had an epidemiologist for 11 years. You're throwing the net out for...
Well, to me, if you know how to do epidemiological studies, you're experienced in that, you have training for that, I think anybody who is qualified to do that should be able to apply for this job.
Right. So
a
Ph.D. in epidemiology, Masters of Science in epidemiology, or would be somebody that you would be willing to accept for that position, and not just restricted to the doctor who came from an American university, which is even stricter than practicing outside, because outside, if you do your residency, you can apply for a license. I mean, if you did your residency in the United States, you can apply for a license on Guam, even if you graduated from UP.
Right, if you have training in the U.S., yes.
Yes. So we're just trying to expand the pool so that you can finally hire somebody.
I'm open to that suggestion.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. I'm going to go back to Senator Ed.D. because you had a follow-up question, and then Senator Torres.
Thank you. Dr. Kaneshiro, if we take a look at the language here, it's expanding the pool to allow individuals with an MPH degree, and it's rather specific. With an MPH degree, epidemiology major, from an accredited school with a graduate degree in epidemiology. So it's very precise that, it's one thing to have an MPH, but it has to be an MPH with an epidemiology.
Because MPH degree can come in different disciplines.
Correct, yes. Correct. But if we take a look at the requirement for a graduate from an American medical school with an MD degree, so, let's say I got a friend who was a podiatrist for, all his career, and now he's decided he doesn't want to be a podiatrist anymore, but I'm going to godfather him in. Do you think he'll make a good epidemiologist, or should we be more really precise that an MD degree and, some kind of experience in epidemiology?
I will tend to agree with you that they should, just because they have an MD degree, that doesn't mean they're qualified to be an epidemiologist.
Right.
They should actually have training in epidemiology as well.
Okay. All right. So
I agree with you. I do agree with you.
We need to work on being more precise then in the language.
To expand on it, but I agree with that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Senator Torres.
Dr. Kaneshiro, can you just explain why the licensed veterinarian was deleted from the qualifications? And you had mentioned earlier that the current statute has degrees in DVM, which I gather doctor in veterinary medicine. Why would that have been eliminated from the law? In
I don't really know. I don't really know why he eliminated that.
Because when I looked at the qualifications of epidemiologists across the nation, they were varied. And I can see your point in opening up the pool, because there are many different disciplines that can function in that specific role. And I know that DVM was a common criteria, or a common it was one of the common degrees that credentials that many of the epidemiologists had just on first glance. So I'm curious why that was struck out and not added to
I
the
actually
pool.
don't know. I don't know why he excluded that.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, follow up on that.
Thank you, Senator Torres, and thank you, Dr. Kaneshiro, for answering all the questions with respect to the bill.
My pleasure.
I'm going to have to take this back to Senator Rodriguez, and it's unlikely that this will be ready for the upcoming session. We have so many questions brought up by my colleagues, and it's one of the reasons why I love working with these people. Just from barely a two-page bill. If you take out the title, it's a one-page bill, but we have questions pertaining to should we limit it only to American schools? Should the M.D. degree include a subspecialty? If we're limiting it to a recognized school for public health, epidemiology major, recognized by whom? If it's going to be an accredited school, are we allowing all accredited schools? Are we also going to limit that to American schools? If we do have a 1 to 2 year experience, does that exclude the Ph.D.s or the MHPs, or MPHs, I'm sorry? And then what about the Ph.D.s? Because we do provide for the master's, but not for the Ph.D. And then lastly, why was the licensed veterinarian requirement stricken? So I'm going to take this back to Senator Rodriguez and get all these things sorted out first. But
anything that'll broaden the scope of people that can apply, I'm in support of.
Okay. So your testimony is as much opportunity that we can create as possible. All right. And then I'll talk to Senator Rodriguez and see how we can try and clarify these things to make sure it's opening doors, not closing them. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kaneshiro. That'll conclude the hearing on Bill 76 if we have no other individuals testifying. That takes us to Bill number 64-33. An act to add a new Article 3 to Chapter 40 of 5 GCA relative to providing public broadband internet services in village community centers. And I'll go ahead and yield to the sponsor of the legislation, Senator Tommy Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members for scheduling this public hearing. And I also want to thank Senator Tony Atta and Senator Barnes for co-sponsoring this important legislation. Unfortunately, not all families have access to the internet at home, and hopefully have an option to complete their homework assignments, research projects, and other school activities at their nearby village community center with the help of empowering them on so many levels. Bill 64 would authorize village mayors to use a portion of their budget to pay for internet services at their respective offices. More importantly, mayors would also have the option to enter into public-private partnerships with the internet service providers that wish to donate their services at no cost to the government of Guam. Our village community centers continue to offer our youth and families with safe and conducive environments to engage in academic, music, sports, cultural, and hosts of other after-school and weekend programs. Reflecting on the goals of President Obama's Connect Ed initiative, which aims to provide 99% of America's students with access to broadband technology in nearly every school across the country by 2018, Bill number 64 recognizes the importance of also equipping the classroom away from the classroom. Bill 64 seeks to encourage our government to truly leave no child behind by filling the gap between our youth and opportunities they have finished in high school, and to our local workforce, join the military, and or pursue a college education. I look forward to receiving input from the public, general public, and I also look forward to working with the committee to ensure that this bill is improved as necessary. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Morrison. Just for the record, we do have written testimony submitted by Mr. William Castro, the Acting Director of the Bureau of Statistics and Plans, Ms. Marissa Borja, the Public Relations Coordinator for Docomo Pacific, and Mayor Robert Hoffman and Vice Mayor Rudy Uriarte from the Great Village of Sinahanya. We do have 3 individuals who've signed up to testify today. We have Mr. Andrew Kenga and Mr. Dan Tadinko from GTA, and we have Mr. Angel Sablan from the Mayor's Council of Guam. Gentlemen, if you can please join us. I guess we'll go ahead and tackle it in the order of individuals who signed up. So, Mr. Andrew Kenga, you were the first individual on the list, unless you'd like to yield to someone else.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll yield to Dan Tydinko of GTA and reserve unless there are specific questions.
Sure. Yes, sir. Dan?
Thank you, Serge. Mr. Chairman, Senators, thank you for the opportunity to testify. When we looked at this measure, Senator Morrison transmitted this over to our office, and the committee subsequently asked us to come down and proffer testimony on the measure, and we're in full support of this measure. GTA, we have over 430 employees who live throughout the various villages in the island, throughout the island. For several years, we've been contributing and heeding the call of the community, but we've also contributed a good number of our services to either the mayoral or community senators throughout the island. Presently, we have services that we deliver gratis over to Jigo, to Derido and Astumbo, to Tamuning, to Manilao, to Jigo, to Jotnya, to Sinhanya, to Ganya Heights, to Maleso, to Agate. And as we expand and enhance our network, we're doing some major upgrades throughout the island. I don't know if you guys have noticed. There will probably be additional announcements coming in the forthcoming weeks with regards to that endeavor. And we look forward to continuing to give as much as we can to the community and the services that we presently give out to those villages that I identified. We haven't forgotten the other villages. We're getting to them. And those services we presently do, the more recent ones, I can give you an example, are the village of Inarahan and also the village of Jigo. The Municipal Planning Council from Inarahan approached us around September of last year, and they had their new facility that they constructed down there. And they said, is there anything that GTA can do in the way of providing services and rendering some services over to the community center? We said, absolutely. We have a good number of employees down there, and we know that by virtue of being able to travel back and forth, a lot of the residents can't just go to the Aganya library, or there's no library, to my knowledge, down in Inarahan. So we decided to go ahead and install TV services down there. It's in the community center. We've also provided the internet and Wi-Fi services for the benefit of all of the residents of Inarahan who may have to avail of those services if they don't have it at home, like Senator Morrison had indicated. Similarly, more recently, we were contacted by the municipality of Jigo, and we will be we've rolled out assistance over to their office for internet services to assist with the Guam Police Department for their presence up there. That's situated, I guess, adjacent or within the mayor's office. So these are endeavors that we wholly support, will continue to support. If the community wants to ask for it, we'll provide it if we can provide it, and we're getting to the other villages.
Thank you, Dan. I just wanted a quick follow-up question because I'm starting to... So you already donate internet and services to the community?
Yeah,
centers?
I noticed, just one clarification, because I saw a news story here when Senator Morrison had gotten some press on the bill with the Tamuning. And we still do provide the services over to Tamuning with regards to the TV for the benefit of, and through all those other villages that I indicated, primarily for the benefit of the senior citizens who are down there on a regular basis throughout the week. But we also provide the internet services over to, I think there's an office there next to the mayor's office, SPIMA. Is SPIMA located next to Tamuning, or somewhere in Tamuning next to the mayoral office? I'm not. Anyways, there's an office there in Tamuning into the footprint of where the where the mayoral and the community center is, and we do provide the internet services there. Just as a point of clarification.
So you are already donating to the municipality?
If the community, if the communities come and ask us, and if we can render the service and accord it to them, we'll do it.
Okay, and the reason why I ask is because one of the key intents of the bill was to create the avenue for those things to be donated, and I guess the assumption was there was no avenue, but you're telling me that you already are able to donate internet services to the village.
We're donating. If there's a need out there, a legitimate need out there, and the request is made by the community, we will do it if it's possible.
Okay.
And we're planning to do that for the other villages that we haven't yet hit yet.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Mr. Kenga, did he cover all bases? Yeah. You're okay?
I'm okay with this so far.
All right, thank you. So I guess we'll just go on to Mr. Espaldon. Angel.
Come to me. Good evening and buenas. I'm Angel Espaldon, the Executive Director of the Mayor's Council of Guam. First, let me apologize for my coughing there in the background. It's just come from all those nights of picking up deer at 12 and 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and so I'm trying to get over that. But thank you to all of you, Mr. Chair and Madam Speaker and Vice Speaker, Senator Morrison for introducing the bill, Senator Torres, Senator Ed.D. This bill actually, you asked Dan whether they've been doing this. They have actually been doing this for now almost 3 years. He didn't add on that for the past 2 years they've been the ones that have provided Wi-Fi interconnectivity to the Liberation Day festivities, and which has been a very big a help to the committee and also a plus for the people that go to the festivities. So we publicly thank them for the services that are provided. The bill, though, mentions community centers, and I know that every mayor is going to say, yes, I support this bill, but not every village has a community center. And those that have them, not all of them, are capable of being able to be used for this purpose. While they may all say, yes, I want the services, I'm looking at it as a total 19 out of 19. I'm going to have the headache of being able to try to find the funds, because this bill does not provide any, to purchase the computers to be able to get the internet services. While they are providing now for GTA is providing now for the villages, those are simply not enough. Community centers, there's 12 on the island. 5 are actually not much more than just a pavilion. They're just open air that are used by our residents for parties, for fandangos, for funerals, for things. So it's not equipped to be used for learning services for our youth to come in and be able to have a peaceful place to use the computers. You may not believe it, but our biggest village, Dededo, has no community center. Jigo, our second village, has no community center. And Tamuning has no community center. They have senior centers and they have gyms, but they do not have any community centers. We have 7 gyms around the island, and we have 12 senior centers around the island, and we have 5 youth centers. So this bill still needs some massaging. We may need to change the verbiage community center to some other word that would encompass youth centers and the senior citizen centers, so that everybody has an equal chance of getting the services that are going to be provided. Barrigada, Manilo, Yamatic, Asan Maina, and Santa Rita, they're the ones that have the pavilion type community centers. You see the ones in Sinahanya and Agate that are enclosed. They may be called community centers, but most of those units there are used either for the mayor's office or for the senior center or for some other nonprofit organization that comes and uses it. And for allowing our youth to come in and use the community centers, the centers are not open after the mayor's offices are closed, simply because they don't have the personnel to run these. If they're going to be open for learning centers or for the use of internet, we don't have the personnel to be able to run this. The gyms are run in the evening, the youth centers are run in the evening, because we do provide additional personnel for those mayoral offices that do have gyms and do have youth centers. Actually, they have 3 more personnel than the mayors that don't have any gyms or youth centers. So that's one thing that we probably we need to change community centers, the verbiage to be inclusive of youth centers and senior centers. I noticed the bill has no funding. And of course, if we open this up in the evenings, we need the personnel, at least one, to be able to monitor the use of the equipment and to be able to keep peace in the facility when whoever comes in to use it. The power is going to go up because then we're using the facilities into the evening. So our power usage would go up. And though it does say that we're going to find the money in our existing funding source, I know the mayors. They're going to tell me go back to the legislature and ask them for more money because they just gave you a mandate to follow. The access control, while I do agree in allowing mayors the opportunity to decide on their own policies and terms of use and conditions, I think a better way would be to have just the Mayor's Council of Guam come up with one policy, one terms and conditions of how to use and who's going to use it, instead of having each individual mayor have different policies. Because I see it right now with the various mayors who have different requirements for residency verification. Some of them want you to bring in your ID. Some of them want you to bring in your passport. Some of them want you to actually show them where you live. Some of them want you to show you your income tax form. So making it one policy where a student from Barrigada can go to Dededo and still the same terms and same conditions be allowed to use the services, instead of how come I can use this in Barrigada but I can't do it in Dededo, or how come I can use it in Jigo and I can't use it in Yamatic. So that would be one of my recommendations. And then on the authority to solicit and accept donations, actually the mayors already have that authority. All we need to do is take this section and amend section 40135 and add on for use of internet services, because they do have the authority to accept corporate sponsorships, donations for sports, for recreational facilities, for things like that, because every village has their own revolving fund. And so while I applaud Senator Morrison and Senator Ada and Senator Tina Muñoz Barnes for introducing the bill, because it would provide another outlet for our youth, we need to be able to say, how many computers am I going to put in Dededo versus how many am I going to put in Yamatic? How many am I going to put in Jigo versus how many am I going to put in Asan Maina? And then the funds are equal in many of these villages. Dededo has the same amount of money. I mean, Senator Nicolas, you asked the other day, I think, for the road pavement inventory that the mayors use for how we divide our funds. That's since 2006, and mayors still argue up to this day, why do we keep using that? And that's because the legislature puts it in the bill, in the law, that's what we use. Or we use the latest certified road pavement inventory from the Department of Public Works, but nobody at Public Works wants to give us the latest certified road inventory. They just send us a letter that says, this, to the best of our knowledge, this is the inventory we now have, but they will not certify it. So the mayors get into an argument as to what is certified and what is to the best of my knowledge, And so it means a couple $1,000s for various villages. And so they'll argue to the teeth that no, if you don't want to do it this way, just divide it up equally, which is usually what ends up in the end, because the smaller villages always outvote the larger villages because there's more of them. But like I said, if we just must work on this a little bit more, we thank GTA for all the support they've given us. I don't even know if it's necessary. They've actually been giving us the services. All we need is to provide them the mechanism to be able to provide us those services. But they've been giving to the senior citizens. They've been giving to our offices. and they all enjoy it. The big TV screens that some of the senior centers have, the seniors are not playing bingo. They're watching Days of Our Lives and things like that. But we thank them, and I'm sure I saw Dokamo also wrote in and saying that they would like to support. And that's the beauty of Guam, is that when you have people like this in the business communities that come out and support our people, especially our youth and our manamko, we all welcome it, and we thank them. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. Is Marlena still on Days of Our Lives? Because she was there when I was like 12.
I don't have time to watch any of those.
Okay. Because I think she might still be. I was actually very surprised. But I wanted to ask a bunch of questions with respect to the bill, because from what I'm hearing now, you're already able to accept donations. The private sector is already donating for the community centers. I would assume that whether it's a senior center or a gym, the same rules would apply as to a community center. They can still make the donations to those various assets under the mayor's inventory. So I'm not quite sure if 40305 is necessary. And then I wanted to ask about the 40302, where it authorizes the mayor's office to expend funds for the purchase of equipment necessary to provide internet services. Can the mayors already do that? Are they already able, if they wanted to spend money for internet services?
Yes, they do, Senator, because they have, like I said, every mayor has their own revolving fund and their own non-appropriated funds that their municipal planning council allows them to use to provide for this. Now that you bring up 4302, I don't know if I'm reading it wrong, but on further down it says each mayoral office is authorized to expend funds under its control for the purchase of internet services from one or more internet service providers as necessary to provide free internet service. So I purchase the internet service to provide the user free service is probably what it means. Okay, so yeah, that's probably what it's saying, yes. To the user.
Right,
yes,
to the
the user. Yeah.
But
yes.
The mayor's offices can already do that.
Yes, they do so. Some of them use their NAF, non-appropriate funds. Some of them use their revolving fund, or some of them use the allotments that they actually have from the mayor's council.
Okay. And then the immunity from liability, I really wonder, does the government immunity already apply to when we're providing an internet service on behalf of the... That's
why I didn't comment on that, because I don't know the answer to that.
There's a general government immunity already when we're providing a service to the people. So I'm wondering how necessary that language is. And then the access control, you mentioned that the mayor's council can actually adopt a resolution.
Yeah, they will work together and come up with one
access control policy.
Yeah.
So rather than saying each mayor shall determine the policies, the mayor's council can go ahead and do something uniform.
Yeah, with the input of the 19 mayors, of course, and then they can vote and agree to one.
So, I'm just looking at, and maybe Senator Morrison can start celebrating now, because it looks like all the provisions here that he's trying to accomplish with this bill are actually already possible. It's just a matter of bringing awareness to the mayor's council and maybe even to the ISPs and saying, hey, you know what, these can already be done. Let's go ahead and get the ball rolling on it. So maybe Senator Morrison will reconsider the necessity for the bill, because it's already possible across the board here.
The only reason why we can't provide, even if they wanted to provide us more free services, if we don't have the hardware. Mm-hmm. We need to purchase those computers.
But you still have the capacity to purchase it anyway under your existing authorizations.
If
you just
don't
have the money.
Funds.
Right. It's a money issue.
Yes.
But this doesn't resolve the money issue anyway.
Right.
Okay. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for the panel? No? Senator Morrison?
First off, I want to thank you all for providing testimony and again, enlighten me in what's been sort of happening, and hopefully we can get it to another level. What kind of led me to proceeding in this direction is, as you recall, I remember GTA, and I appreciate all the service you provide in the community. Where there was a kind of a procurement glitch that, when GTA was offering services to our public school system, a prize, and because there was this uncertainty of how this is going to work, and a lot of interpretation this way, a lot of interpretation that way. However, nevertheless, GTA proceeded and said, well, let's donate this to a school that wants it, or to a private sector. And And we just want to make sure that we clear the legal path and make sure that everything's set. I understand we're offering these services, but I'm not sure how much the policies are in place that offers these Wi-Fi services to students. Mm-hmm. The whole key here is to gear it towards students. We're talking, I understand we have access for M.F.Q, we have access for whatever service families out there, but we're trying to focus and filling that gap. So that's one of what led this to formulation, is that there's a lot of uncertainties out there with even our laws, and that was a good test for even our school system. And here is a company that wants to donate this service, and all it took was one challenge and or concern, and that whole opportunity for Wi-Fi services to our kids was gone. Same with DPR. DPR, we passed legislation just to make it clear, because they want to accept donations, but they're concerned even to get a blade for their lawnmower would be in violation of something out there because of what we've discovered in the DOA system. I'm glad you're clarifying that, but are we very sure? Because I'm not sure really if the other service providers or even GTA goes all out and starts providing these Wi-Fi access to the community centers, that there is a clear legal path and legal understanding all in one piece of legislation or bill that makes that happen. Now, going back to some of the questions of how we're going to provide all this hardware and all this, that's not really the intent here. I mean, I've gone to almost every school in this community, and you can ask every child in there how many of them have a device. They all have a device. Majority of them. How many have? You ask the next question. How many have access at home? And we see a lot of hands drop. And there's reasons why we're trying to proceed to seeing where is the gap if they're going home. How can we make this more accessible? And seeing that the providers know that there is clear path for this instrument. Again, I agree with you. I can reconsider this portion of designating the funding source for or designating a portion of your current budget for this, to reconsider that. But I still want to ensure that the people understand that what we're trying to provide for those providers who want to donate these services, have a clear understanding that the Mayor's Council can enter into this public-private partnership throughout the centers. I also agree that yes, we were actually thinking about that maybe the mayors can actually have the authority to designate where these Wi-Fi spots could be provided out there. Hardware and all that is not necessary regarding this legislation. The goal is to provide internet access, or otherwise known as Wi-Fi, and creating these spots where if they don't have it at home, that they can get it to the nearest village center or designated area where it's safe, and they can have their access to getting some things done for themselves. I'm not sure how many Wi-Fi spots are out there and how many community centers or how many are part of the plans when we provide Wi-Fi spots. We're just trying to make it clear, not only at the community centers or designated areas, that we're trying to kind of designate Wi-Fi spots for our youth to have a place that they can actually go to for these services and to get whatever necessary work done.
We'll get that list to you, Senator, but that's why I mentioned gyms, because a lot of our youth go to the gyms, and there's people, we have our staff there, at least in those seven villages that can watch and monitor them. But there's other villages that do not have the personnel. We certainly don't want the community centers just to be gathering places for people after 5 o'clock to start coming around and just sit there because they have Wi-Fi. And if that's going to happen, then we need to make it orderly. I mean, we need somebody there that's an adult that we able to control the location and the situation. Should anything come up, we cannot make it just a free-for-all. Come and enjoy yourself here. The gyms, we know we can handle that, and the youth centers and the senior centers. But when it comes to the community centers, it's a different story. The ones that are enclosed, they probably can control, but those that are open air, people come in and out. So but if we're going to make our kids be able to learn something, then it has to be a place that is conducive to learning, not just come there and sit and be able to communicate with each other on a smartphone.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and again, Mr. Espaldon, I thank you for providing some clarity of some of the existing laws out there. What we're trying to do is, set the policy going forward that, that if we're going to provide these services, and providers that want to provide that engage in this partnership, is that it's specific to developing for Wi-Fi, call it what it is, Wi-Fi youth centers. I mean, and that's driven by this legislation, not wide open-ended, and that anybody can come there and make use of it for whatever needs.
And we welcome the legislation, which I think we just need to massage it a little bit, and if we need it so that it can be no more challenges in the future, then certainly we should have it.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Morrison. Do any of my colleagues have any other questions or comments? Does anyone else wish to testify with regards to Bill number 64-33? If not, we'll go ahead and conclude the hearing on Bill 64-33. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making the time to come out tonight. I know we're working late into the evening already. That will conclude all the items on the agenda for this evening. The committee will continue to receive testimony on the items heard this evening. Please provide them expeditiously, as we may be completing committee reports as early as tomorrow for our Committee on Rules meeting. But if you are going to be providing any testimony, please address any written testimony to the Committee on Finance and Taxation, General Government Operations and Youth Development, and you may submit it via electronic mail at senator.nicolas@gmail.com, hand delivery to the Legislature's mailroom or to Suite 407 at the DNA Building in Hagåtña, Guam. Thank you, everyone, for your time and attendance and participation at tonight's hearing. And the hearing is now adjourned at 7:17 this evening. Thank you very much.